Yeah, so this is the director's reflection on our video project on standardized testing for Inquiry 4. Yeah, we wanted to stay true to the objectivity of Patrick's Inquiry 3 essay, but we still wanted to take a clear stance on the issue. To do that, we used a lot of logos. So you'll see in this video, we have a lot of statistics. We have a chart coming up here. And so in this part, yeah, we just wanted to introduce the No Child Left Behind Act because that's kind of the turning point for our issue, considering George Bush implemented this thing and it kind of mandated standardized testing, and it's kind of the premise for our entire argument. And so coming up right here, we have another clip kind of detailing what happened in the No Child Left Behind policy, and it just kind of outlines generally what it included. And we can see from these bullet points here that it doesn't sound like too bad of a plan, but as we can see later in the video, it ultimately comes down to teaching for the test, and as we elaborate later, that's really not what we're going for. And then this clip kind of illustrates to what extent the No Child Left Behind policy kind of overstepped what it was trying to do. 112 exams is pretty excessive, and anyone like in this class who's taken standardized tests knows how just crazy they are. So, and then this is probably one of my favorite parts where John Oliver is talking about the vomiting. It's pretty bad when you have kids stressing out so hard for a standardized test that they're going to vomit on their test books. And so that part really adds pathos aspect to our presentation because it just shows the emotion of the exams, and that kind of goes along as well with the testimonies from our fellow students, where they're kind of giving their own 2 cents, kind of extrapolating on their experiences in standardized testing. I know for me, like they weren't a terrible thing, but at the same time, they are definitely a stressor, and it's just not something that really captures the knowledge that people accrue in learning. And in addition, as we hit on in this video, uh, the No Child Left Behind Act actually caused teachers to narrow their curriculum by teaching for the test. And in doing so, it's actually worsened our education standards in America. And so that's one of the big logos aspects of our paper, in addition to just the cost in general of like administering these tests. Because if you're taking over 100 tests in a year, that adds up to quite a bit of money, especially when you're doing it at every single school. And so we think that and goes to our final point that in moderation exams are good, but we can't we can't go about spending a bunch of money taking a billion exams because they don't even help educate people. Exams are meant as a bar, and they're meant as a measuring tool. They're not meant to educate. They're not meant to teach material. They're meant to test material. And that's the big difference that I think a lot of people kind of forget about. Another component of Logos is this part on China, where they take all kinds of standardized testing, but they're ranked like one of the best in the world in reading and math and all that stuff. But that's most likely due to how they're teaching and not how they're testing. Just going back to the interviews for a second, I just really wanted to emphasize how good of a job that our interviewees did, considering we basically just asked them, "What do you think of standardized testing?" and they kind of took it in a pretty good direction. So I was proud with when handed with the broad scope of our question, that they actually presented valid points. And then another important aspect of this video is the pathos, which we portrayed in several different aspects, and one of the most important ones is, I think, the political cartoons. Because if you look at them, they're very subtle and they don't really take over the video, but they really do present a message on what people think of this policy and how it's really affected the nation as a whole. And so in this video, we really tried to show that our resources aren't being well utilized in just pumping out standardized test after standardized test, And though, yeah, in moderation, they're good, we really need to focus more on the holistic evaluation of the student and of the teachers. It's not just one test that's going to show, okay, these students are learning better. There's all kinds of aspects involved with it, and some students aren't even good at taking tests, but they might have like really good grades. And so it just doesn't make sense to waste all this money on these tests that don't even accurately evaluate the teaching and the learning of our teachers and children, because that's not the point of education. But I think this part with Obama, he really aligns with our view, though he kind of in practice may have not quite met the standards that we'd hoped for, but I mean, ultimately everybody kind of falls short. Ultimately, I'm happy with how this video turned out, and I hope it gets some people thinking about how we educate in this country and what means we can do to kind of do better, because God knows we're not the best.